Blimey, it's 2025. Can you believe it? I literally remember this time last year as if it were yesterday. And I know everybody is kind of saying the same thing. Time feels like it's going by quicker. It's mad because this is actually a common phenomenon. It's known as proportional theory. Imagine, proportional theory is based around the fact that time is quite literally more abundant when you are younger. So like 1 year represents a much larger proportion of your life than when you're older. For example, if you're 10 years old, 1 year represents like 10% of your whole life. So as you age, 1 year literally feels shorter to like previous years. So when we say time feels like it's speeding up, it actually is, or rather, it's an actual legitimate feeling that it is. So how was your Christmas day? Did you overindulge? The proof is in the pudding over here, honey. I literally overindulged in everything. Like everything. I am overindulged out. My waistline is screaming. My chin is multiplying. My whole body is just screaming, Cheryl, stop! Like, stop now. Stop the abuse. Stop the onslaught. Just stop. I am stuffed in every way possible. Like, every way. Every single way. And yeah, I'm gonna need at least 6 weeks, I reckon, to recollaborate. Why do we do it to ourselves? Why? We say every year, or well, most of us say every year, oh, you know, we're going to hold it down this year. Because it's like the season is giving indulgence. The season encourages indulgence. And I don't know many people that don't indulge in one way or another over this season. So I'm just going to go ahead and blame it on the tradition of abundance and leave it there. Because nearly everybody that you speak to managed to do the most. Marketing as well. I'm going to blame it on the adverts that we see on the TV leading up to the big day. Every other advert is around food. It's about a sumptuous feast with meats and vegetables all looking glazed and honey roasted and perfect and inviting and tasty and tantalizing, and definitely not necessarily what it looks like when it hits the table in real time, but it does look very inviting. And the desserts, Lord have mercy. If you are a sweet fiend like me, if you have an incredible sweet tooth, which I'm not bragging about because there's absolutely nothing to brag about, by the way, but I'm just saying, if you are someone that likes a little bit of sweetness, then this time of year is hellish. The desserts, there's every kind of dessert available in every kind of flavour, in every kind of way, from sponges to trifles to jellies to ice cream to cake to pies to every damn type of dessert. Whatever your thing is, like this time of year, you're going to get that en masse. So like if you like cake, you're going to get about 12 different types of cake, 10 of which you would normally get at any other time of the year. It's just too much. It really is too much. I'm feeling it. Yeah, I'm definitely feeling it. I literally feel like I'm dragging my ass. I've been to the gym. I've been trying to kind of keep on top of that because, you know, been literally my saving grace. And I just feel like I'm dragging my ass around the gym. Like, seriously, if it's not my ass, it's my tits. I'm just like, the hell, everything is just double its size at the moment. So yeah, at least 6 weeks. So yeah, if you're like me and you literally went to town, don't worry about it. Just chalk it up as another good season of indulgence and jump back on the wagon and keep it moving. So if you have overindulged, there is a high chance that you're feeling a little bit sluggish. Kind of goes with the territory. Feeling back to normal can take some time, and that's because your body has basically got to readjust to all the shit that you've been bombarding it with. So sex can take a bit of a nosedive as well. Well, not necessarily a nosedive, but you might not be feeling as sexual as normal. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Maybe you should just find easier ways of getting it on. I think most of us, even if we are tired, we'd happily engaged in sex if it didn't require much work, right? Spooning. It's a good way of getting it in without too much of anything. If you're in a heterosexual couple, then ladies, having him behind you and entering you from the back, as in the vajayjay from the back, everybody calm down, that's pretty stress-free for both of you. And he can still play around, so he can still rub on your tits, rub your clit, whatever else it is that, you know, you might need or require or he feels to do. It's all kind of in a relaxed state. Another cheat, if you like, for the ladies that are being penetrated, lie with your head over the edge of the bed. Lying with your head over the edge of the bed can actually do bits. Now, let me explain. This is not a position that I want you to get into and potentially black out. No. So I feel like there's a bit of clarification that is needed for this one. So have him mount you in regular missionary position, but position yourself nearer the edge of the bed. So head is kind of backwards, pointing to the edge of the bed. So as you're going through the motions, doing what you're doing, as you feel yourself begin to near a climax, sort of shuffle your body kind of backwards while you're in it. Not too much, obviously, because it might look a bit like you're just doing too much, but just kind of edge yourself towards the edge of the bed, head back, of course. And just as you're about to blow, throw your arms over your head and let your head and shoulders dangle. I would give you a demonstration, but that might look really odd. So just let your head and shoulders dangle over the bed and let the rush of blood just flood. If you get the timing right, this is going to take you all the way to the heavens and back. Easily. Again, this is a position that he can do his thing as well. So while he's in the missionary position, he's kind of got you that open to all the tweaks and twists and licks and whatever else he kind of wants to do while he's doing what he does. Yeah, it could be pretty intense. Him doing that, your head over the edge of the bed, blood rushing to your head, climaxing all over the place. You can imagine that is quite a serious position, and it's quite a lazy position. Like, there's not much to it. One simple action outside of a normal position, missionary, can potentially amplify the orgasm tenfold. Please be sensible with this one though, because yeah, if you start feeling lightheaded, like really lightheaded, and I think we know when something doesn't feel right, if you feel like that, stop. Another fun but lazier position is one where the woman is lying on her front with a pillow underneath her stomach. She's kind of arched over it, arms forward, you know, literally stretched out over the pillow. He then straddles from the back and literally mimics the draping effect. So he kind of drapes himself over her, draped over the pillow. Once he's in, rather than bang, bang, bang thrusting, you're just going to have him move in a slower, more circular motion. It's going to be like a slow grind, but without the pressure of sort of standing, as in slow grind to music, I mean. He's just going to grind into you slowly and deeply. And in this position, he can also pay attention to parts that he might not necessarily focus on. Because he's behind you, like he can nuzzle into your neck, the back of your neck. I mean, I know we do the whole neck thing, but from the back, that's not usually a spot that is tended to, let's just say. And for what it's worth, it is a spot that's super sexy and very sensitive for some. So yeah, he can just explore that. He can nuzzle into it. He can lick it, bite it, nibble it, all sorts of stuff. So this is unintentionally turning into an episode about lazy sex positions. I don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, you really don't need to overdo it. Sex doesn't always have to be super amped up, relentless pumping and thrusting like it's the first time. Sometimes we are tired and we still want to get off. That's okay. It really is. All right, one more. Ladies, if you lie down on your stomach, legs straight out, slightly open, then he comes and literally drapes himself over you again. So there's a lot of draping going on because remember, we're tired and we're being lazy, so we're just going to drape ourselves. So similarly to the last position, it is all about the draping. But this time he's going to rest his weight on his elbows so that he's not literally dropping his dead weight on you, because let's be real, there's going to be no pleasure in that, because a dead body weight is probably going to remove all of the good feels, because it's likely you'll be struggling to breathe. So it's important that he props himself up on his arms and elbows. He's then going to put his legs outside of yours, so yours are on the inside, and then as he enters you, you're going to bring your legs together and cross your feet over at the ankles, clench your thighs, and trust me, you're going to love it. He's going to love it. It's going to feel so good. That clenching of the thighs is going to make him feel like he's in extra deep. And again, because he's over you, he can make use of his hands and perhaps massage your neck, play with your hair. I mean, he can do whatever, well, maybe not whatever, but there is scope for other bits and pieces. But essentially, it's another position that's energy preserving. Sounds like lazy sex could really be a thing, a fun thing. It doesn't always have to be overexcitement and overexertion to have a great time. Anyways, let's move on. So more and more, there's talk of men being sassy. The term sassy is often used to describe someone that is overly confident and quite lively with a bit of attitude. And if we're honest, historically, it's often a term attributed to women. So to apply it to men is not necessarily complimentary. But with that being said, some of the apparent characteristics of a sassy man include things that women have been bawling for years, such as emotional intelligence. Men who are sassy are often more in touch with their emotions than the unsassy men. So it's kind of a conflict. Because on one hand, we're throwing around the term sassy because more men appear to be embracing traits that were once deemed as more feminine, like being emotionally intelligent and displaying emotional ability. As I said, traits women harped or continue to harp on about wanting in a man for like ever, yet we're not saying sassy in a kind of positive, big up yourself kind of way. It's all a bit mixed up, but I think one thing we are all sure of is the girls aren't happy. The girls are not happy with the men. And it seems there is a growing sense of, I don't even know how to phrase it. I just see women around me, I see it online, I see it in the media, I kind of see it everywhere. We all kind of see it. Women aren't necessarily respecting men for being men anymore. Now, I'm not a traditionalist in that men have to be a certain way and so do women and you can't step outside of those gender roles. No, that's not where I'm sitting at all. However, I do think by our very design, men and women naturally assume certain roles, and it kind of has to be that way to make things work. For compatibility reasons, you kind of take on different things, and there are typical roles that men will take on and women will take on. And it's not to say that there can't be a kind of mixing of the two or sharing of the two or both doing a bit of everything, but there still needs to be a level of understanding as to who's doing what and how they're doing it and how it's going to look. Just for the sake of compatibility, I'm trying to articulate this, and to be honest, I don't know if I'm doing what I'm actually thinking any justice. So things like the dating pool, for example, by the sounds of it, that shit is like a cesspit. Again, that whole men being sassy thing comes up quite a lot when you speak to women online dating or trying to find partners online and even offline. When a lot of women talk about the behaviours that men are displaying whilst dating, it's not looking the best. Like the behaviours that a lot of men are showing are just not attractive to women anymore. One thing that pops up a lot is the way that men expect to be courted. Whoop. Old school term alert. FYI, I actually love old school words, just by the way. So courted. Courted, in this sense, means the act of seeking someone's attention or affection with the intent of forming some sort of romantic or intimate relationship. I really do like that word, but I digress. So yeah, it's not black and white how people should behave during the chase, you know. However, I think there is one thing in particular that the girls are unanimous about, and that is men wanting to be chased, men wanting to be run down, men wanting to be pursued, men wanting to feel desired and wanted by women. Now, there is absolutely nothing wrong with feeling that you want to be desired or wanted, but it's kind of how you go about it. It would appear, and now I cannot speak for everybody, but it would appear that even when it comes to the simple act of messaging, you hear it all the time, you see it online, men appear to be doing too much. For example, it used to be if a man upset a woman, she would block him. Rightly or wrongly, I'm not here to dispute whether the act of blocking is right or wrong. I'm just here to say it was just something that women tended to do, right? And then men would either leave her to it or try and figure out what's going on, or eventually she would just kind of simmer down again and everything would be back on, or whatever. Not saying that kind of behaviour is okay or acceptable, but that's generally how it went, right? Now it's the men that are getting in their feels and doing the blocking. And this is often because A, they can't get their own way, or B, they can't deal with the situation that they're in. Now let me just say, I think it's necessary to clarify that there are occasions where someone, that's a man or woman, may feel the need to block another person that they're intimate with. If it's a way of protecting themselves emotionally, in that they feel this situation is getting out of hand, so they choose to block in an attempt to minimize any emotional distress or further heartbreak, then you do what you've got to do. I can't see much wrong with that. That, as well as maybe blocking to avoid conflict and to perhaps establish a sort of boundary or re-establish boundaries. You know, for example, you might have been in an intimate relationship with someone and you no longer want them to contact you. Blocking them might be necessary. Again, I personally subscribe to the whole thing of let's communicate, but that might be a bit airy-fairy in some situations. I appreciate that. So if you feel like you kind of have to, then I think most people know when it's petty or when it's a genuine act for a genuine reason. Some people, and I think this is where the issue lies, use blocking as a form of silent power play. That's not cool. This is punishment or an attempt to punish another person. Unless it's consensual punishment, I don't know who anybody thinks they are trying to punish other people. That doesn't make sense to me. It's an unnecessary way of trying to control the relationship or situationship or whatever it is that you're in. It would appear these so-called sassy guys are using blocking for the latter, the control, trying to show her who's boss. This is something that many would have deemed a feminine thing to do. This is something that most people would have expected a woman to do, as I said earlier. Again, not saying it's right, but it would have been more expected of a woman than of a guy. Tables do turn. It's funny because more and more women don't actually care anymore. It's behaviors like this that just turn women off completely because, again, as I keep saying, rightly or wrongly, this is a behavior normally attributed to women. So if men are doing it, it's like, ew, that is so icky. But the fact that women are caring less, I don't necessarily know whether that's a good thing, though. I mean, yeah, it's important to see bullshit. I would say that for men and women alike. It's important because when you see nonsense happening, to be able to withdraw from it quite quickly saves a lot of stress and headache. But at the same time, it's like we're losing this level of tolerance, or rather we're not investing in others in the way I guess people used to. We have this fast-paced online kind of way of hooking up with different people, entertaining randoms, just having our ego stroked by a plethora of people at any one time. Kind of makes us feel like as soon as one person shows their arse in an undesirable light, that they're automatically dispensable. And in a way, I suppose they are. Anyone is, but it's the speed in which it's done. It's the coldness, the kind of, it's the speed. It's got to be the speed because if you can do something quickly, that means you just don't care enough for the most part. It's quick. There's no waiting around. Women aren't waiting around anymore. And this is another thing that I think a lot of men have a real issue with. Before, a woman would take a lot of doo-doo from a guy. Like, she would take so much crap and she would still be in his corner. Nowadays, that's just not happening. Like, you literally have one strike and you're out. I don't know if many women are here for the 2 strikes anymore. Like, guys are just being cancelled. There's no sticking around. There's no waiting to see if he's even worth it. Even getting to a place where you can even know if he's worth taking a little bit of bullshit or maybe trying to understand him or trying to communicate with him to maybe get a bit of an understanding. There's none of that. One little ick and it's later potato. And I have to say, this approach, this way of being is definitely ramping up amongst women. Young, old, and everything in between. By contrast, I've heard men say a lot of things women used to say. Things like, I just want to settle down. I just want to have someone to love me. I don't want to be messing around anymore. I just want someone to be consistent with me. I don't want to be alone is another one you hear often. I want someone to take care of me. The list is endless. All the things you'd hear women say in the past because they couldn't get a man is now what you're hearing from more and more men. Things have definitely changed. I think being online is a massive driver of that. Now, it's not all negative, not by a long stretch of the imagination. I mean, women are being more empowered to love themselves unconditionally and not accept any bullshit, which I 100% co-sign. I mean, you've got this whole embrace the body that you're in, regardless of how it looks. Do you, get for you, acquire for you thing going on. I mean, I love that. I love that mentality. That empowerment, I think, is necessary. And there's nothing wrong with that. The flip side is the nonchalance, this ever-growing lack of concern or interest when it comes to being emotionally invested in guys that don't appear to have everything that they should have on paper. Yeah, it's a lot. So I guess the real question is the so-called sassy guy the fallout of women behaving differently, as in more empowered, more confident, knowing what they want, what they're not prepared to accept, or only accepting less on their terms? Is that why we are getting more sassy men? Is it because they feel that? Is this a way of clawing back something for themselves, maybe? Or is it the evolution of man that is causing women to act this way? Steve could look at it from either side of the coin. It's definitely food for thought. I wonder if men that women deem as sassy actually realise that they fall into that bracket. Also, I wonder if the so-called sassy behaviour continues on into relationship, or does it sort of die a death? I guess what I'm saying is, does the sassy behaviour stay, or does it evolve? Or does it just disappear? Is it permanent? Or is it a behaviour that has been acquired by a man as a way of navigating intimacy and relationships? Because I definitely think for some, it's a way of protecting themselves. The behaviour is a defence mechanism. So if that is the case, then in theory, when they get in a relationship, it kind of goes, in theory. That's another episode. I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking wild, unrealistic thoughts. Who knows? It's interesting though, the sassy man. So 2025, what's next on the agenda? Because obviously this whole conversation around the sassy man links directly to dating and what women are expecting. I personally think the roles and expectation of genders is going to continue to evolve, i.e. where we have the sassy man, which alludes to the fact that men are acting more within their feminine energy. I feel that's likely to continue. And actually I think there's going to be more rejection of traditional roles, and people, both men and women, will be basing connections more on things like being emotionally available and the ability to communicate. So when people are dating, it's going to be more of a need to feel connected rather than just physically attracted, which is no bad thing because, yeah, looks are important. We all know that. But once you're in your stride in a relationship, you're probably not going to be paying too much attention to their looks again. I mean, of course, you're going to appreciate your man or your woman's beauty, but that's not what's going to keep you in the long run. It's more the connection that holds you together. The connection is the glue. So yeah, I think there's going to be more emphasis on that. I also feel like future dating is going to be more techie, way more techie. So this whole virtual reality and AI and bots and all of that stuff, that's going to ramp up. Dating in virtual spaces rather than actually meeting and going out, I reckon is going to be big. Maybe not this year, but it's kind of, we're getting there. It already happens, doesn't it? I mean, the online world is just going to grow and grow and grow. Things like AI matchmaking is going to play more of a part in connections, or rather establishing the initial connection. It'll be a case of let AI do the work. Let AI figure it all out. Let AI work out whether me and this person is in any way compatible. If it makes sense, then all right, might give it a go. It'll be more of that. It's technology. Can't get away from it. But before I let you go, did you know that men have between 3 and 5 erections every single night? Most of us are familiar with morning erections, affectionately known as morning glory, but that is actually the last of a series of erections throughout the night. Each can last anywhere between 25 and 35 minutes. So if we do quick maths, if he's like sleeping for 7 hours and he has like top end 5 erections and again top end of 35 minutes, that's like 35 minutes times 5. So that's like 175 minutes just being erect all night. That equates to, hold on, what is that? So 60 minutes is an hour. So 60, 120, that's 2, 1. So that's just under 3 hours of erections. Okay, so he's basically hard all night, or at least half of the night. So that explains why when he wakes up, he's still tired. Because even though having an erection doesn't necessarily make you feel tired, energy is required to push the blood to the penis to make it erect. And if you're doing that for nearly 3 hours a night, then yeah, that's going to contribute to your fatigue. No, but seriously, could you imagine 3 hours hard? Well, it's not even could you imagine. I mean, imagine it, because it's real. Potentially, it's real. At the top end, 3 hours a night hard. That's a lot. Anyway, until next week, gorgeous, you take care and Happy New Year. Here's to 2025 being amazing in every single way. Until next week, peace.